What's up, gang? This is my new to me Bally Strikes and Spares. Most of you know if you've been following along. In this video, I want to show you the bare minimum that you need to do and things that you need to go through before you turn on a Bally machine of this era, which is late 70s to mid 80s. We're going to start at like the power cord and go all the way through testing the voltages all the way through the back box. So stick around. All right, the displays aren't going to come on, but I'm going to give it a shot and see. It should fire up. Everything else should work. I think need a couple parts in that sling. All right, I think it works. Oh yeah. Everything will work except for this, I think. Very nice. A lot more works than I expected. Oh. Works well. Playfield's nice too. Something familiar about this machine. It's like I've played it a bunch. Yes. Score.
I'm Walter Day, the father of esports, and you're watching Matty Mo's Arcade.
Now, when I first get a machine, I'm like really excited to get it and I really want to play it. So taking the time and doing these steps I know is very painful. And most people just want to turn it on and see what happens. The first thing I do with any pinball machine I get is I take kind of an assessment of the machine and look for anything, because there's parts and stuff that I know I'm going to have to order. So before I do anything with it and start digging in, I go ahead and order those parts that I need. You're definitely going to have to get rubbers, especially with a machine this age. You're going to need to get at least one new ball, one for this machine, depending on what machine you got. Some have more, some have less. So you want to get your rubbers and new pinballs, and you want to check see what kind of bulbs you have. You probably want to get a couple boxes minimum of each bulb that's in your machine, and that'd be a good start for the top of the playfield and the back glass, really. The next thing I do is I get in here underneath the playfield and I check, you know, if these flippers don't work, that's going to be a problem. You're not going to want to play it, or it's not going to be fun. So I just check all these solenoids and make sure that they're all free and actuate the mechanism. Because if they're burnt up, you probably won't be able to do this. Checking for the pop bumpers and all this. And then if you have the time or you're not as impatient, you can actually test the coils, and so you'll know for sure what's going on. You want to test, put your meter on like the lowest resistance. Mine is auto ranging, so I don't have to worry about it. But put it on like the lowest resistance, and then you measure your the two outside lugs, and it should be 2.5 ohms or better. If it's less than that, either your coil is bad, the diode is bad, or the transistor that goes to that solenoid is bad in the back box. But you can test that too. You can just undo one of the windings on one of these coils, or you're really going to have to undo it, because if you cut it off, and then you're going to be short. Undo one of the windings, then test it again. Hi, Willow. And if it's if it comes back up to 2.5, then your coil's good, and you know your transistor's bad, or the diode could still be bad. So, and it's just one other way. And if it's still bad, then it's definitely the coil. Don't get in there, Willow. We might turn it on. And this will actually give you another chance where you can check your bulbs in here too. The next thing on the shopping list is going to be fuses. There's a 1 amp slow below that's like right here next to the fuse, or next to the flippers. I want to make sure you don't forget that one. And then let's go ahead and pull the back glass off. Now, if you don't know how to do this, there's usually a key up here on the right, which luckily I do have mine. It's a little bent. It's unlocked though. So you just want to turn that, unlock it, and then you'll be able to lift up your glass. I pull it up, slide it down, pull it out two-handed, and then I go hide it. All right, sorry I got you so close, but it was the easiest way to do it. But I know it's a big jump. So what I do is I pull these fuses out of circuit. So I don't want to test them in their housing just yet. But I also want to test metal cap to metal cap first, and then I'll push it in and I'll test the fuse clip to fuse clip, just to make sure that the fuse clips are good. The first fuse is it's a 10 amp, and it's for the feature lamps. So let's see, I just have it on continuity, so it should beep. It's okay. Probably could, they probably are oxidized. Could use some new ones. These fuse clips definitely either need to be replaced or cleaned. Now let's try, and I want to do it from the clip to clip. Let's see. Okay, so now we know the fuse is good, and it's making a connection all the way through on that board. The second one is a 3/4 amp slow blow. If I don't say slow blow, it's a quick blow. Oh, well, it was getting it. And let's go clip to clip. Am I hitting the right one? Okay. Okay, good. The third one we have is, 4 amp. That's going to be our unregulated 5 volts. So that's good. Clip to clip. That one's good. The one before it was the F2. Oh, that's the display high voltage fuse on the rectifier. Now F4, and so next one here. This one, you could have several different things. If you have a 2 flipper game, it should be a 5 amp. 3 flippers would be a 6 amp, and then 4 flippers would be a 7 amp. Obviously, it's for your solenoids. Okay, so we're good so far. Now, if you have a problem with one of these in your machine, even though that I don't in this one, I'm basically telling you where to look. So on the first one, it would be your lamp driver board, or on your playfield possibly. Number 2, the display high voltage area of the driver board. Number 3 is your unregulated 5 volts. So you just want to, okay, so you probably wouldn't want to check the playfield and stuff. You're going to want to check these coordinating bridge rectifiers, my bad. And 4 would be, I think 4 is different. We're going to get back into this a little bit more in depth. But if one of them blows, if 2 blows for your high voltage, it's actually these diodes that are over here next to it. They actually make their own bridge. There's 4 diodes. And you want to upgrade those. They're 1N4001s or 404s. And you want to make them 07s. And that'll make them withstand a little bit more heat and last a little bit longer. But we'll get into that later. Right now we're just doing the quick stuff. Okay, so this one is it's number 5. It's going to be a 20 amp. This is just general illumination. Seems like those always work. And it's really charred in there. So it needs to be cleaned. It may not work. Let's see. Clip to clip, it's good. And I think this is the last one here. I'm screwing myself because my last one on my list is the playfield one. I already told you guys about it. F6 is a 3 amp slow blow. And this is where our AC comes in. Get it freed up. Alright. And I did not have any bad fuses anywhere on this machine. But the boards didn't belong to it, so a little bit tricky. Alright, so that's that part of the fuses. So you want to take note of what fuses you have, depending on which section they're in. Most likely you want to buy multiples of that one fuse, because as you're trying to repair it, you're going to blow several of them. So either you probably already have some on hand, but make sure you get more when you're doing the pinball machine. Next, we're going to look at the driver board. Really, all boards in this machine, you're going to want to replace your header pins and the pins inside the Molex connectors. These are 0.156, and these little red ones over here are 0.1s. And like I said, you're going to want to replace all your headers and your actual pin in the inside here, little crimp terminal. So you want to order enough to do all of that, except for your MPU. That's kind of up to you. I went ahead and I just bought the new MPU. It's so much less headaches, and then I'll fix the other one for fun when it's not pressure. You know, I don't have any pressure. I want to fix this thing and play it right now. I don't want to have to fight that thing. You want to order a handful of these transistors. These are the ones that go to your solenoids or your coils. Now, I'm not sure if you're supposed to say TIP or TIP. I say TIP 102s will work here, and pretty easy to find those. So get like a handful of those. And then you also want to replace these caps that are up here. They're going to be big blue honking ones. I had saved one to show you guys. I don't know what I did with it though. This one here, I went with 10,000 microfarad and 35 volts. This one I went with 150 microfarad and 450 volts. And there's a range that you can get them in. If you only have 2 flippers on your game, you can go to like, you know, as low as 10, 12,000 on this guy. And but if you have, you know, 3 and 4 flippers, you need to get up into the 15,000 microfarads on that one. And they say this one usually doesn't go bad, but those caps are as old as I am, literally. So I'm going to go ahead and replace them. I don't want to have to come back in here and fight some big stuff later. So I know I'm going to have to change those. So that was on my list too. And I think that's about it for the list. So let me recap that, and then we'll start going through the testing and seeing what's wrong. And here's the new, this is an Alltech Ultimate MPU. And this runs most of the Bally machines and a few of the Stern machines of that era. It's really, really nice. So while I read this list off, I'll show you a little clip of what my actual MPU looked like, and then what my spare MPU looked like, and you can see why I just went ahead and skipped it. So we want to get new balls because we don't want to tear up our playfield. You're going to want to get cleaner and stuff like that. I'm assuming you guys have that kind of stuff. I use magic erasers lightly. You want to get new rubbers. And then you want to check your solenoids, your coils, you know, flipper coils, all that stuff. Make sure they at least actuate. You know, if they don't actuate, you're definitely going to have to get one. And then, you know, you're going to have to get, the diode usually comes with it. So, and you also want to get, you know, the coil sleeves if they don't come with your solenoids. You want to go through and get any fuses that you think you're going to go through. At least get one of each, and then several of the one that's actually blown on your machine if you have any blown. You want to get the header pins and the crimp pins for all your connectors. You won't have to worry about header pins if you got the new Alltech MPU, but you do want to put new crimp pins, especially on that board, because usually there's alkaline damage and it's gone to the pins, and you don't want it to, you know, move on from the pins to your new board. That would be bad news. They're about $225 plus shipping, roughly. You want to go ahead and pick up the solenoid transistors, the drive transistors, and TIP, let's kick it, 102, if you can remember that. I just say tip 102, I don't know. And then we got diodes. We want to upgrade any of the standard diodes that are on here to the 14007s. I think that's what it is. I'll definitely say it, and when we get to it, and this rectifier board, that'll be next. Is I actually, wait a minute, I have them right here. It's a long stretch. 1N4007. Yeah, I was right. Okay, I just second guessed myself for no reason. Okay, and that should get you as far as the preliminary order, and then once we go through these tests, then we'll know what's actually wrong, and then you'll have to make a second order. But maybe not. We might get it, and that could... Almost got this one. Just that few things, almost got this one. All right, we'll be right back. Now that we have our parts order put together and we have that ordered and we're waiting for those parts to show up, we can go ahead and get started. This is going to be step one. By the time we get through with some of this stuff, those parts are either going to start to show up or they'll be here, so it'll be perfect timing. So if you're planning on using the original MPU, you want to address the battery situation like immediately, first thing. So you want to cut this guy off, or as in the situation that I did, I went with the Altec MPU, and I'm going to save this one. This one is the, I would say, the worst of the two that I have. This is the Alkaline Damage. This is what happens when the battery isn't changed or taken off. Goes all the way around up here. Let me back out. And it goes all the way around the sides. And then anything that's touching the edge here will need to be changed, and it's creeped up a lot of these traces too. That one's pretty bad. Here's the other one that I have. This one's not quite as bad. The battery is cut off there. You can see it still comes up the sides. The back isn't nearly as bad, but it's still gross. Got all that. But it didn't creep all up into the middle of the board on this one. So this one's going to be a little bit easier. I do believe that this is the one. One of the two is easier than the other. This one, okay, this is the... Oh, this is an original. It's weird because this one has, okay, I guess my parts machine also, this is 3 days before I was born, June 14th, 1978, right there. But there's also stickers inside the game that say June 14th, so I didn't realize that they were, I guess, you know, they only made so many of them, they probably had them running down the line. This one says 7823 on it. And this one says 7826. I don't know if those are serial numbers. If so, my two machines are only 3 apart. I'll find that out later. But you definitely want to cut this off, step one. And there's gonna be a lot of crap to deal with. This is definitely not for this is not for a beginner. So I recommend getting the Altec if you're not good with soldering or you're comfortable with doing this. If you are, you probably know exactly what you're in for already. Now let's move to step two. I want to change the power cord on the game, or at least the end if you don't have a ground tab. So I put a new one on here, which the old stuff looks like lamp cord. So this is just a temporary fix. I put this on here and then use, heat shrink to get it together. And I ordered a nice 15-foot cord for it. The original looked like this with no earth ground on there. So You might be able to play with your game like this and never even notice a difference, but you might have a lot of problems. I'm just going to say it's best to replace it and do it immediately before you get started. But like I said, you may not even notice a problem if you did it, if you played without it. But I did have a Miss Pac-Man one time where if you touched any metal on the control panel, it gave you a nice big shock. So that's going to be step 2, is going to be the power cord. And step 3, we're going to get into the back box here, and we're going to get right back into this rectifier board. So step 3, what we want to do now is we're ready to turn on the game, but we only want to put power to this rectifier board / power supply. And so we only want to have J2 connected. You want to undo J1 and J3. And so you want to catch ground off of this resistor here. And you want to use this leg that's closest to the connectors that are down there. And then I'll put that on my negative lead on my meter. And then I will try to be careful with the positive so that we don't have to take a bunch of breaks. Okay, and so we're ready to turn it on. We're gonna go for, at first, see our test points are here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And isn't that right? So there's 6. I don't think there's a 6. But we do want to remember that number 4 is AC volts. The rest are going to be DC, so we'll skip 4 and then we'll come back to it after we're done with these. Let me just make sure that this stays on for us. So test point 1, it's going to be for the lamp driver board that's just over here to our left. It's for the feature lamps, and it should be 5.5 volts to 6.5 volts, something like that. So we'll go ahead and turn the game on. Oh, I should plug it in. That would help, huh? Now that I've shown you guys my new handy dandy cord, and I put my tripods and stuff all over it. Okay, so like I said, all we have is power coming in from the wall or the transformer in the bottom of the cabinet right now, just to that board. Nothing else is going to be powered up. Okay, so let's check out test point 1, 5.5 to 6.5, and we got 6.2, so that's pretty good. So if fuse 1 is blown or keeps blowing on you, you don't need that one to start up the game. It's just for your lamps, so you don't have to worry about that right now. But it will be bridge won't be R1 would be the one you would want to check for that, and that's the first bridge rectifier, which you can see these 4 squares with the screw in the center. Those are each rectifiers and bridge rectifiers. And number 2, which is going to be for our high voltage for our displays, it doesn't have one of these rectifiers. It actually uses 4 diodes to the left of these fuses over here. But test point 2, it should be like 195, and this one also has a lot of variance depending on what's plugged in. It can be up to 250, I think up to 230, and then like down all the way to down to 150, I think. So let's go ahead and hit test point 2. 177.2. Okay, that's roughly what I had before. I've gone through this step before. I did change all 4 of those diodes to see if it would change, and it does change once you put a load onto the board. So once we plug in J3 that goes up here to the driver board, it does change that voltage. Now if that one's bad, like I said, it's going to be those diodes over there. You don't have a rectifier to look for. Test point 3 is the I think that's the, yeah, this is the one that becomes your 5 volts, and it's, I think it starts out, yeah, 11 to 16 volts. 1, 2, 3, and we got 12, so perfect, right on spot. And that one will be bridge rectifier 2 if you're blowing fuses there. And that's test point 3. Test point 4 is the AC fuse. We'll come back to that one. Test point 5 is 47 volts. And this one is for our solenoids. And we're at 45, so that's pretty good. Oh, I forgot to turn the light on. 45, so that one's good. And now let's go ahead and change this to AC, and it should be 7.5 volts. There's this one here. 7.29. Okay, so everything is pretty good and pretty square. And I knew that it would be on this one. If your test point 4 goes to, I think, fuse 5, and then test point 5 goes to fuse 4. So it's kind of flip-flopped. But if your if your fuse F5 is blowing, then you have a problem with one of your lamps or something in general illumination. And if your test point 5 is blowing, you want to look at this final BR3 bridge rectifier as the first culprit. Okay, now that we have that set up and we know that our voltages are good here at the power supply / rectifier board, we can go ahead and hook up our J1 and J3, and then I'll resituate, and then we'll take a look at the driver board next. We're going to put in the long connector, which is J3, and then J1 over there. Make sure that we have them all in the proper places, and there's no... Sometimes you can overlap and miss a pin. You don't want to do that right there with this. This bottom plug runs the power to your solenoid board, and then it also will get power. Actually, it runs power to all of them. These other two are not power. I think they're power. One's power to the playfield and one's power for lights. So we have those two in. We want to leave J3 and J4 on the solenoid driver board plugged in. You're going to take out J1, J2, and I think this is J5. And then we also want to take out J4 of the driver, or the MPU over here. This is bottom connector. And one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but needless to say, any of those connectors that were on the MPU board, all the pins need to be changed. They're going to have that nasty corrosion on them. You need to change all the pins and the headers on your rectifier board, and anywhere that you at least do the power. So where the power's coming in here, you want to at least do your header pins and your pins inside these Molex here, which these are the 0.1s, and the bigger ones are the 0.156. At least do that. This is where it's going to kind of separate, because it is a little tedious, but it needs to be done one way or another. Otherwise, you're going to be lost when you're troubleshooting. So we have those disconnected, this one disconnected, and J4 over on the MPU disconnected. So now we can fire up the game again. We're going to steal ground from the driver board here. It's marked. Now over here on the right next to these connectors, let me get over here a little bit. So we have test point 5, test point 1, and then test point 3. Now test point 1 and 3 are both going to be 5 volts, and the test point 5 is going to be your 12 volts. And there actually is a mod you can do to make your board a little bit more stable. And you want to connect on the back the test point 1 and test point 3 that are both 5 volts, is it actually runs off of the board and comes back. And so it's a lot easier if you just connect those two. A little easier on the board. So I will try, let me see, I don't know where to put this. I don't want to knock anything over or short circuit anything. don't know if we can see that. To back out a little. Okay, so first, let's turn the game on. We have our ground over there. Okay, and as you can see now, we have some GI lights. So cool. We are moving forward. So first, we want to test that top one, which is test 0.5, and it should be about 12 volts, 12 to 16, I think it is. And what do we have here? 14.8. Okay. And then our test 0.1 underneath here should be about 5. And 5.13. And then we'll check our test 0.1 here, or 3, I'm sorry. And that is, don't do that. 5.12. Is that me or is that the board? Okay, that was me. 5.12. I smell something burning. It's that resistor up there in the high voltage section. It's a place where I was having problems. So we'll move fast through this next part. Okay, so you could see that though, hopefully. And our next thing is going to be to test this high voltage area. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention earlier, if you have a fuse up here, you want to take it out before you do all this testing. Because if you take it out, it will keep the power from getting to your displays, and you're not ready for that yet because we don't know how much voltage is going to them. So with this one, it's the high voltage area. It normally has a plastic shield over it. I want to keep that in frame as well. I don't know if I can. Almost. Hi, Willow. We hear you. Okay, and there's also a pot that's up here that you would think you could change and hopefully, make it a little bit better, but it does not. Okay, so we're going to test this one real fast. Test 0.2 should be 150 to 170 volts. And obviously it's not because we're burning up a resistor there. And I will explain what happened on my first attempt. Let's see. Hi, Willow. Okay, so I should turn it on. We'll see what it's coming up as. It was coming up. Let me make sure I have this plugged in right down here. Because before, I was not having anything burning up. It was actually, test 0.2 was coming up at 12 volts. So let's see what it comes up now. We have 13 volts. That's odd. Oh, on the other side of that, I think it is still 230 volts. So we still have 13 volts there. Most people are going to see test 0.2 and test 0.4 as the same voltage, which means your high voltage section needs to be rebuilt, which I completely did this and I made a mistake, and I'll show you that right after we get done testing this. So test 0.4 is right up here. It should be, this is your high voltage in. It should be at 230 to 250 something at max. And your test 0.2 should be at 170 to 190. That's your high voltage out to the displays. So this fuse, when it blows, it doesn't prevent the voltage from going to your displays. When it blows, it lets all the voltage, all 250 volts, slam your displays, and it starts burning the little pock marks all around them, and it's just way too high. But let's go ahead and turn it on, and we'll check test 0.4. and we have 250 volts. So that's what I assume was going to happen. I do want to okay. I didn't figure I'd have a problem up there with it being 12 volts, but I guess some of those resistors on one end, they have the high voltage, and on the other end they do not, which this one is R51, I do believe. I have it written down. I actually made a resistor there just in case, so that it didn't burn up my good one that I bought 4 or 5, but I'll figure that out later. But what I did is I came through and I rebuilt everything. I repinned all my connectors, so I thought everything should be gravy, right? Put it in a new pot. Originally when I went to test, I got the same 250 on test point 4 and then 250 on test point 2, so I knew it had to be rebuilt. So I went through, rebuilt everything, put my fuse in. I disconnected my displays this time. I did not do that last time. I turned it on. I was able to dial it down to about 175. 190 is what they recommend originally from the manufacturer. Now that we know, try to turn them down to like 170 or so, and then that'll like extend their lifetime on them. You know, they'll last longer. They're not going to burn up as much, and they just don't need that much voltage. If you get the brand new displays that they make, I think they're LED displays, but they only run on 5 volts, so you don't even need this high voltage section. So now that we know our 5 volts is good here, we can plug back our MPU in over here on the J4, and I'm going to take a break for a second because I'm going to figure out a way to disable this high voltage. I'm going to figure out what to pull so that no voltage gets to it, and then we should be able to test the game and see what's going on, and you'll be able to see what happened when I first did this, because I didn't have any displays or anything. Now the second time I turned everything on, I got my voltage where it was correct, dialed it into 175, played a game, got about halfway through it, and I heard a tick and the displays went out. And I'm pretty sure that one of my displays has a short, and it actually shorted out backwards and got this transistor here, and it took that one out, and it took that one out. So I pretty much ordered a whole nother batch of stuff to rebuild this. What I didn't have is most of the time I order in groups of 10 or 20. So that's on the way, but I want to disconnect this now, and then I'm going to leave my displays disconnected, and we should be able to look and see what the game, if the game boots. Then we're going to start over here, and I think, I'll have to look a little closer. I can't look from this far away. There's a green LED on the MPU, and we want to look for the 7 flashes, and then we should hear a startup chime. But let me do a little bit of research to see how I can disconnect this high voltage. Okay, I got you guys to where I ended up at and had problems, but I didn't finish the video, or at least the topic that we started. If you've gone through everything and all your voltages have tested right, and your high voltage tests good, before you just plug in your displays and go to town, what I recommend you do, so you don't make the same mistake that I made, just go through your display driver boards here, and test any kind of diode or no, don't you jump down in there. You want to test, just look for shorts, cracked solder joints, burnt up parts, stuff like that. Anything that looks suspect or like it may be bad, set it aside and go with your best display first. Start one at a time and go through that way. That way you don't end up having to rebuild your high voltage section twice or 3 or 4 times. The next thing you want to do is go back and test your voltages on your rectifier board. I'm trying to keep the cat. She really wants to go down into the pinball machine. Go back and test your voltages just like we did in the very beginning. Test all your voltages here. Make sure that they're good. Another thing that I didn't have time to show, but you can test all of these transistors fairly easy. I think the way I did it is I put my black lead. Let me just get it real fast. Let me see if I can change this light up a little bit better. I keep standing in front of it and darken us out. This thing's so bright that it blots out the sun. So I'm pretty sure that the way I did it, instead of like testing each one how I normally would. Okay. Man, it's so dark. Willow, calm down. All of a sudden you're on a tear. That helps a little. So I think I put black lead on ground, and then this top leg here, and I think it's 0.3. I thought it was like 0.5. 0.3, 0.3, 0.5, 0.3, 0.35, I mean. So they were all the same, and then you can do the same on the other leg and just kind of go down the line, and these all come up 0.6. Oh, did I miss it? Well, that one came up 0.0. This isn't a fail-safe. Oh, okay, they all are coming up 0. So that must be a, what is it, the collector or base? That's ground. Either way, you can just run down the line and you can test them really fast. And it's not foolproof, but it'll give you a quick idea. And you'll know right away if, 17 of them test one way, but 2 of them test a different way. You're probably going to have an issue with those 2. Just a quick way, and not an actual way of testing a transistor. Okay, so I have everything plugged in. I have, instead of the high voltage rolling, I took out pin 6 and put a little heat shrink around it so it doesn't short out to anything. So there's no 230 volts coming to this section of the board at all anymore. I don't think we need it for anything else, so I think we're good there. What we want to do now is turn it on. Our flashes are going to be from right in here somewhere. I'll go ahead and turn this one down a little bit. Or actually, we can leave this one on and turn the super bright one down. Okay, and so it'll flash and kind of pulse a little bit, and then it'll flash 7 times right after that. Make sure we have everything plugged in. Everything's good. The game is plugged in. Okay, let's check it out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I must have missed one. But we booted. All right. So we have a game. We just don't have any displays right now, but I have the stuff to on order. It should be here in a day or 2, and we'll just do another video and finish that part up, and then we'll go through the displays. I also I'm going to go through all the come on, cats. Now I have 2 on me. I'm going to go through all the tedious stuff and not really film it all and show you guys all of it, but go through it all and get it done and document it and let you know what I did, how I did, what problems I had, that kind of thing. But let's button it all up. We won't have displays, but let's go ahead and play a game while it works. Be right back. She looks great. No displays, but I'm digging it. I got most of the lights, it looks like, are working. I pulled the ones as I was going and cleaning that looked really bad, kind of eyeballed them, and then just swapped them around with ones that looked good from the play field, my spare play field. And it looks like most of them are lighting up. Not all of them, but pretty good for just shooting from the hip. So let's see how much we can play before Willow gets up here and decides she's playing pinball. She's already going for it, so. Alright. Try to level it out a little bit. We're gonna have to just take notice and see what all works. I gave everything the once over, but I didn't really test anything. I just just made sure it was, kind of all there. I do have this sling on the left side that is missing a part of its bracket. So I do have all of the, you're just gonna lay down in the middle? I took all of that stuff off of the spare play field, the flippers, pop bumpers, any of the solenoid mechanisms that I may or may not need pieces for. I'm just going to go through, make the best play field out of the parts that I do have, and then of course probably buy a flipper rebuild kit after that. But to start with, I figure I probably have enough to get a good start with it. I think I've dropped, counting the spare parts machine, 600 into restoring it so far, which really isn't that bad. Ninja Cat. So I got the entire parts machine for $200. It was everything except for a cabinet and back glass. So that was a steal. It was a long drive. We slid off the road, ended up in a ditch in a snowstorm. It was an adventure. Got most of it on video. I don't know how my parents listened to me play this thing. I played it just non-stop. There had to have been like a 9 o'clock shut-off time or something, but I don't ever remember them telling me I couldn't play it. Like, no, I don't want to hear that today, or all right, that's enough pinball. I don't remember ever hearing that. Okay, one more, Willow. Let's see if I can play. I don't know if I'm beating the high score to date or all that stuff I could change. I don't want it to be too easy. I want to get a high score and be able to hold it for a little while. But I will leave it fairly easy when I have my family over, since it was this game, not this exact game, but this title was in our living room for so long, dining room, living room. I want to get everybody together and we'll all sit around and play a couple games, 2-3 games or something. I'll leave it easy during that. And then after that, I'm going to get some skill on it. Oh, hey, thanks. She has been begging me to play this thing ever since I brought it home. She keeps jumping on it and looking at it and like, come on, I want to chase the ball. And I sold the touchdown, so she knows these shoot a ball around, and she has a blast playing it. But couldn't understand why I wouldn't turn this one on for her. Just thought I was being mean to her. Another thing you can do whenever you get your displays going, when you put them in there, you can get into the self-test. I think you just hit the button like I don't remember if it's 2 or 3 times, and it goes to the display test, and it'll run through all the digits, and you can just kind of let it do that for 20 minutes or so, and then check all your voltages again. There's test points on the display drivers themselves. There's a 5 volt test point and a 190 volt test point. I think that might be it. That's all only ones you need to test anyway. But I got this far pretty much with just going through, repinning all the connectors, and I didn't even do headers yet because I didn't have any. Actually, I did have some of the 0.1s, but everything worked except for the displays. And I rebuilt that section, and I could have had it all playing already if I would have been a little smarter. Just a little too eager. That's why I wanted to do this video where I slowed down. I wanted to go through all the points because I prefer to watch my own videos whenever I have a problem. And I love these Bally machines. So I figured this would be the easiest way. Oh, is somebody leaving, Willow? Let's get that spinner going. I might be picking up a Cubert, mostly empty. And I might be... Oh, I've ordered parts for Stargate. I think I've got Stargate figured out. Fingers crossed. And then it won't be really too far away. It'll just be some cabinet work after we get the gameplay and rebuild the monitor. But one last look at it. And then next time, hopefully we can put these parts on later this week and get our displays looking nice. I need to pull them out anyway, go through them like I was telling you guys to do. Check all the bad looking parts, replace anything burnt up, check for shorts, reflow it, and they almost always need reflowed anyway. But I think we can get it all going, and it's starting to look pretty good, as you can see. But thanks for watching, and next time maybe we'll get to play without the cat on top of the game. See ya. These two right here are going to be ground and 5 volt. So what do we get here? Did I not turn the game on? I didn't turn the game on. I guess that would help. Hang on.
Here it is. A nice little trade. The person I traded got what they wanted. I got what I wanted. And a pretty good deal on it too. Super hang on.
What I want.
That comes later.
Yeah.
Okay. It's on fire.
Whoa.
Lots of smoke.
Well, that's bad.
Yeah, well, thanks for watching.
When you take care of people, people take care of you in this community.
That's the truth.
So everyone, please remember that. Even if we're competitors, we're not enemies.